Secretary Wright, thank you very much for joining us. A lot on the energy-specific side to discuss, but a lot of people are blaming tariffs for part or all of this stock sell-off. Where do we stand with energy tariffs from Canada and Mexico right now?
Oh, I think we're in active negotiations right now. Think of Trump's last term. He engaged on tariff dialogue really with his eye on how to make things better for Americans. Think of his words here. We want free and fair trade, reciprocal tariffs, and we want to stop the importation of fentanyl. There's just been an absolute human crisis. So he's a businessman who wants what's best for the American people. Right now, we're in the middle of what's going on, the scrum. I think the end result's going to be quite positive.
Well, I'm sure you have a lot of Canadian friends, right? Friends in Mexico as well. There's a lot of them from both countries walking around. They all want to come up to me, and I'm sure to you, and say, we're not the problem. 4.5 million barrels a day of imported Canadian crude oil are helping, not hurting. And they all wonder what's going on. Is there any window or insight into why this has all happened?
Look, there's a huge concern about the trafficking of drugs. And I think we've got to work together. All three nations have to work diligently to reduce the flow of drugs. This is thousands, tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 needless loss of American lives. It's a problem in Canada and Mexico as well. So that's a huge issue, and I think it gets underplayed sometime. And the other is just to get free flow of goods both ways. There's a 250% tariff on American dairy farmers to sell into Canada. Like, that hurts Americans. So let's focus on what hopefully the end goal is, which is free and fair trade, reciprocal tariffs.
Is it possible then there are no tariffs?
That's probably possible. I think we could get to no tariffs or very low tariffs, but it's got to be reciprocal. It's got to be the countries working together to better the outcome for American citizens.
If I look back at Trump 1, 2016 to 2020, I see we added about 3 million barrels of oil production a day when the average price was, I think, in the mid-50s. So we added production at a time when oil prices were not sky high.
Yes.
But that wasn't 13 million barrels of oil a day like we are now, Chris. Is it possible to add more barrels at $66 a barrel like we are right now?
Absolutely. Look, the easiest production to grow in the United States is natural gas and natural gas liquids. I think you're still seeing growth there at a pretty good clip. We can grow crude oil barrels as well. Key thing with President Trump is to lower the cost for American producers, lower the uncertainty for American producers so that it's a better climate to invest. That lowers their cost of production. The break even for American producers is going to be pushed down.
Well, and of course, they just start at the end. Folks, if you're hearing in the background, there's like somebody on a microphone right behind. Of course, it started right during this interview, so apologies for that. That said, do you feel like there's the tariffs and I hate to harp on it, they're not helping that. You're a CEO. How do we get more confidence? I don't think tariffs help with that.
Yeah, well, particularly uncertainty around tariffs. But this is, we're 50 days into the administration. The accomplishments in the first 50 days have been tremendous. 4 actions already on LNG exports.
Yep.
We're getting rid of nonsense across the board, but we're in the middle of negotiations for where things are going to go with tariffs. So that feels frightening and gripping right now, but this time will pass. Deals will be made, we'll get certainty, and we'll have a positive economic environment for Americans going forward.
You've talked about climate, and I know you just did a big talk with leaders in Africa.
Yes.
And you talked about something that not a lot of our viewers really understand, which is how much, while we have this beautiful energy situation in the United States, a lot of people cut firewood. Their children suffer all these household diseases because they're breathing in all this noxious garbage because they've got to produce wood fire to whatever. How do we get the rest of the world, and I primarily mean Europe, on board with the idea that the rest of the world just wants a little bit of what we have, yes, which is the lights and the heat works. And we've actually brought down carbon emissions in the United States by increased use of gas. How do we get Europe? They still seem like they're not on board with that thinking.
Yeah, they've gone a long way down a road that I think was destined to lead to where they got, which is high energy prices, exporting of their industries outside. Germany, this industrial powerhouse, the United Kingdom, the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. So, but I think you're seeing uncertainty in Europe. You're seeing citizens upset. You're seeing political upheaval. making energy expensive and unreliable is a surefire way to lead to political uncertainty. I hope we see a turn in Europe. I believe we will see a turn in Europe. But I can certainly say we've seen a turn in the United States. Just a return to common sense.